health could be a limiting word because of many reasons. And other thing, the mental health is not something that can be limited to our brain or biology, because globally the mental health perspective is changing. I mean, we are coming to the understanding that we are already in the understanding that mental health is not something no, that is limited to the brain, but it's an outcome of systemic inequalities. For example, if a person is living in a poor economic state, living in poverty, there is no point in giving pharmacotherapy or any kind of traditional psychotherapy to the person without addressing the poverty, because the mental health issues are arising from the economic barriers. So we should address the poverty first, then the mental health will automatically improve. So when it comes to people with a disability, it has got much more importance, because we are people with a disability are facing they are the people facing deep inequalities and systemic, attitudinal, all kind of barriers. So for the mental health of people with a disability, it's largely coming from the social inequalities and barriers than as a direct effect of their disability. So when we look at this perspective, we thought it's more appropriate to use or see from the perspective of psychosocial care than thinking from the narrow perspective of mental health. Because without addressing the social reasons, we cannot improve the mental health of people with a disability. And why I suggested Ken to include other people too in the seminar. Let us arrange it for everyone who wants to help or serve people with a disability, including those who are working in accessibility field or those who are developing technology. It's because of the same reason they all contribute indirectly to the mental health and the psychosocial well-being, the mental or physical or social well-being of people with a disability, because it cannot be limited to clinicians or therapists or doctors. It's a collaborative effort. So that's why I thought of expanding it to the whole community. And another reason for that is that when I think the slide is changing. Did it change? Okay. Whether you are a therapist or clinician or an accessibility professional or a teacher, your attitude matters. Even if it's a person who design a technology for a person with a disability, or who develop a business for a person with a disability, your attitude definitely matters, because your attitude towards the people whom you serve is going to influence and fashion your actions and behaviors towards the group. What you believe about a particular group will be transferred subconsciously or indirectly to the group of people. For example, if you hold a discriminative and prejudiced attitude in yourself and you are not aware of it, but subconsciously you will be transferring the same message, the same attitude to the people whom you serve. By profession, you are a teacher, and okay, you are a special educator or teacher, and you are helping students with the disabilities. But inside within you, there is a discriminative attitude which is not even available to your own awareness or understanding. Definitely, you will be transferring that message or attitude unknowingly to the students. It will be there expressed, and the students or the population who get your service are going to, it's going to be internalized for them. It becomes the internal stigma. That's why even those who develop technology, I would say, or those who work in accessibility field, sometimes them it might be their job preference or their profession, or maybe because they choose um, this profession because of its relevance in the society now. But your attitude matters, and to the family members also the attitude matters, because if your attitude is discriminating, even if you develop something, whether it is a therapeutic program or any other kind of interventions or a technology design, whatever it is, you will be transferring the discriminatory attitude towards that. You will not be able to um, value or respect the dignity of the people or the group whom you are serving. So that's why I thought of expanding this webinar to everyone. Okay, let everyone let us start thinking about our own attitudes and our own values, which we hold towards the people with disability. So I have put a few main attitudes. Let us check our own attitudes. Let us start this webinar that way. When we think of disability, what comes to our mind first? Support or limitation, dignity or dependency, human worth. What do we believe about the worth of people with a disability, and capability and autonomy, how capable they are, how do you believe, how much you believe in their autonomy, their freedom, their choices, their capability, their capacity to make choices. And do you consider disability as normalcy or as a diversity, or as a natural human experience? How do you see disability? Or do you see it as a mere impairment? And care, do you believe in care, or do you think people with the disabilities are their lives are supposed to be controlled and managed by someone else? What do you think about it? So if you believe they are incapable, or there should be someone in charge of their life, and we need to control and manage their life always, even if you are a good carer with empathy, you are going to exercise unhealthy control over people's life. So, and charity versus right, definitely this is something very important. Charity, do you consider people with a disability as charity objects, or when you do services, do you think it's your generosity, you are helping them out of your generosity, or is it, are you serving them because they deserve it, it's their right? So these are the attitudes, the primary attitudes we need to check in ourselves when we start, or before we preparing ourselves, or before we deciding to help people with a disability. Okay, and another thing, I say this whenever I talk about disability inclusion. In all groups I talk about this, the attitude of us and they, I think it matters. Us and they. So we always keep people with a disability. Okay, they are the largest minority group in the world. Okay, and people without a disability is helping them or caring them. Okay, so there is always us and they. So as long as we keep this us and they, that divide is not going to be filled. That gap is never going to be filled. So there is no inclusion going to happen. So instead of thinking us and they, there should be we, the attitude of we. And if we need to reach to the attitude of we, there should be a change in our belief that the disability is something that that happened to a minority group. Okay, it's the problem of a minority group. It's not that. From that thinking, the society should come to the thought or belief that, or the understanding that disability is a normal or natural human experience that can happen to anyone in the society. Uh, or to all people without a disability have a probability of having some disability at some point of their life, and everyone is going to have some kind of disability experience as they get age, and the world is moving towards that. So the aged population is going to be increased, and if uh, people with a disability is the largest minority in the world now, I don't think it will take much time to become the majority in the world, because our expectancy is so increased because of the modern medicine and lifestyle. And but when the life expectancy increases, the disability also increase with age. So it won't take much time to become the majority in the world. So our society should come to the attitude, to the awareness that disability is not the problem of a minority, but it is something we all are going to experience. So those who advocate for the rights of people with a disability and inclusion also should focus on emphasizing this attitude in the society. We should make people aware this fact. Only with this attitude, the thought of the attitude of we will come. Okay, only with the attitude of we can start understanding or empathize, or will have sensitivity, the real sensitivity towards the people with a disability, and we can start working towards inclusion. And so without this attitude of we, and without the attitude that this is a common human experience, natural human experience, the inclusion or is never going to happen. So before starting any kind of services, let us start checking with our own attitude. And why psychosocial care in disability? And as I said, psychosocial care is not optional in disability work, okay? But this is central. Psychosocial care is not optional, it's central in disability work and in any kind of work of inclusion. Psychosocial care looks at both psychological and social dimensions of well-being. It's not looking at, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's not looking at mere the psychological dimensions, but it gives equal importance to the social dimensions of well-being. So without considering the social dimensions of well-being, we cannot understand or we cannot help people with a disability effectively. So in the context of disability, psychosocial care means recognizing that mental distress also often arises from not disability itself, but from ableism. And what is this psychosocial disability includes? It includes our emotional experience. So when we help or when we serve people with a disability, we should look at all these areas. We should try to understand, explore all these areas in their life. What are their emotional experience, their day-to-day emotional experiences, how are navigating through their emotions and struggles in their life, and sense of identity and self-worth, how much they believe, what's their attitude towards themselves, how much they believe they are worthy human beings, they are worthy in the society, and what's their sense of identity. Are they able to acknowledge the disability as their as the part of their identity? And are they limited on, is their identity limited only to the disability part? Are they known and acknowledged only as a person of disability, or other parts of their identity or identities are also explored and celebrated in their lives? Relationships and belonging, the nature of their relationships, and their sense of belongingness in the society, in the community, or in their family. So how do they belong? How sense of belongingness and the nature of relationships, the quality of their relationship, and the access to education, um, and work, healthcare, the power, autonomy, and participation. About the power and autonomy, we will be talking a little more elaborately in coming slides. And disability affirmative lens. Okay, so we are looking at it through a disability affirmative lens, which means it does not consider disability as a tragedy, but it recognizes disability as a natural part of human diversity or natural part of human experience, while acknowledging that society often fails to accommodate it. That is what we call disability affirmative lens. And the psychosocial challenges. What could be some psychosocial challenges faced by persons with a disability? So first thing is, again, this is something we often talk about: stigma and internalized ableism, or the internalized stigma or internal stigma. Many people grow hearing messages like "you can't do this," "you are a burden," or "be careful for whatever you get." I remember attending an international conference in my state here about disability, and there was a panel discussion going on. It was, and the panelists were government officials, and they were talking about the different kinds of disability services they deliver, and there's some messages in group. Oh, I'm sharing slide. Um, okay. I think it's after webinar. Okay, I'll be sharing slide. Okay. Okay. So yeah, the panel was they were talking about the kind of services they provide, but in India we don't have accessibility for the public transportation. And so I asked them, okay, there are a lot of things, but India is moving forward. Okay, I acknowledge that they are doing a lot of things, but public transportation is not yet done, and and I asked the question to the officials, why still our public transportation is not accessible. So they gave me diplomatic answers, and one person told me, see, look at yourself. You are sitting in a place which is reserved for the wheelchair users. So you are sitting in such a place. We have provided you. We have given you such a space. So you should be grateful for that. And we are working on public transportation, and you'll be able to get it in 5 years. They were giving diplomatic answers. Also, they told me that I should be grateful for what I have. So this is a kind of this is an unhealthy attitude that we are transferring to the people. As remember the thing which I said in the beginning, like the attitude we hold, somehow it will come out through our words or actions. So the person was telling me I should be grateful for what I have, and I'm not supposed to complain about what I don't get. So they don't see it as my right? They don't see it as my right. So this is kind of stigma. This is coming from a stigma. And if I get such comments a few times, definitely I will start internalizing it. I will start believing about myself. Oh my God, I'm not supposed to ask for more. See, look at my facilities. I'm given already what I have, and I should be grateful for that, right? So whatever we hear, listen from others, it can get internalized. It can become the internal stigma, and that is more difficult to handle or deal with than the external forms of stigma. And okay, and it can affect our self-esteem, and it can create shame and self-doubt. Something happened. My slide is not changing. Okay. Okay. Next thing is social isolation and loneliness. If you look at the mental health of people with a disability, those who experience depression and anxiety, most of them are isolated and feeling lonely in their own situation. This isolation and loneliness are strong determinants of depression and other mental health issues for people with the disabilities. Physical barriers, communication barriers. There is no one to talk, and we don't have and we have mobility issues. We are not able to go out, participate in any community activities. We don't have celebrations of life. All these are the determinants of mental health. Actually, these are the things which gives happiness, and it gives us, you know these are the factors which determine our well-being. So all these are taken away. So we don't have people to interact. When we have communication barriers and attitudinal barriers, fearing the discriminative attitude, even if there are opportunities, many don't go out, and they isolate themselves. That too can happen. So the social exclusion is one of the strongest predictors of poor mental health. And the loss of autonomy, and this is another thing. I think that even the therapists or teachers or caregivers, even family members should be aware of. Decisions about education, relationship, work, even healthcare are often made for persons with disabilities, not with them. Even the small decisions about their life, uh, from childhood onwards, they should be given opportunity to take decision for themselves, make choices for themselves. So often what happens, maybe the family members or caregivers, they assume, if they hold a negative attitude or an unhealthy attitude, they'll assume, okay, people with the disabilities don't have enough knowledge or expertise to make their own decisions. So they will make wrong choices or decisions. So we are supposed to advise them, we are supposed to guide them in everything, and we are supposed to make decision in everything. And that actually limits their autonomy and freedom and their choices and even their decision making abilities, and it can diminish their happiness of life. Okay, I have heard many people talking about this, since they are living with their family members, and especially in Indian culture, most of the people with a disability, they live with their family members. They're dependent on their family members. So in such a situations, it's more complicated than comparing to the countries which have more individualized culture, because every decision can be made by other family members, or it can be imposed on them. So if sometimes, most of the times, the people with the disability, they are afraid to talk about their dreams, their wishes, and their choices, thinking that it can be a burden for others or inconvenient for other family members. So we should be aware about this, and we should respect the autonomy and their will and their right to choose and decide for themselves about education, about relationships, work, or even healthcare. I'm sorry, this is a little. I think you are able to read it. Next is trauma exposure. This is something we need to seriously consider. I think once we can have a session, especially about a trauma itself. Today, I'm just, just trying to mention about it. Trauma, different kinds of trauma will be experienced by people with a disability, including medical trauma. Many times they might be going through surgeries or treatments or hospitalization, and so it can be medical trauma and institutionalization, neglect or abuse, bullying or violence. All this can be trauma, and trauma is something that can be lifelong. Okay, people get repeated exposure to trauma. So trauma is definitely is an important thing that should be acknowledged in disability services. So many of the behavioral problem and mental health issues of people with the disabilities can be because of the trauma they experience in many areas of their life. Okay, from the institutions, from the education field, from their relationships, okay, from the community, and most of the time they may not talk it out. They may not verbalize it, so it can be there, so it should be addressed. And mental health system gaps. Mental health concerns are often the mental health issues can be considered as part of disability, so it can be misdiagnosed or completely ignored, thinking that okay, this is merely the part of their disability. People can ignore the psychosocial reasons behind um, reasons behind the mental health issues. Sorry, again, my slide got stuck. Okay. And the psychosocial care, and how the psychosocial care must be grounded. It should be grounded in rights, not charity. Okay. Um, and the right-based approach, we all know it, and then still I'm just going through it. UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities reminds us that persons with disabilities have the right to dignity, the right to autonomy, the right to mental health care, and the right to live in the community. So I would like to emphasize the first point a little bit more. The persons with the disabilities have the right to dignity, because this is something often ignored in most of the services. Okay, even in accessibility services or any kind of services in public services we design or we deliver, if the dignity of the people are not recognized and not respected, there is no point of developing any kind of inclusive environment, or whether it is digital or physical. There's no point if you don't respect the dignity of the people whom you are going to include. So in the middle of any kind of services, it should be there. Respect their dignity, care for the dignity, and protect the dignity of the people whom you deserve or whom you design services for. And the right to autonomy. Definitely, people with a disability need support. They may need help in decision making. Definitely, we cannot ignore that. We might need help and support in decision making, choices, to explore choices. At the same time, finally, the decision, the capability, the decision making capacity should be vested in the person with the disability itself. There can be shared decision making. That finally it's up to the person. The person's autonomy should be respected. It's up to the person who decide which stream or course they want to choose to study, and what kind of relationship they want to get in, and what kind of relationship status they want to maintain, and what kind of work they want to do, and what kind of healthcare they want to choose. All these decisions are finally up to the person. Others can support and care. And the right to mental health care, can be denied in many ways because of the lack of inclusivity in terms of accessibility. How many mental health providers are using sign language interpreters in their system? So it should be encouraged. Mental health professionals should be encouraged to learn sign language and accessibility, inclusiveness, and there should be a special curriculum for mental health professionals um, to understand and the accessibility and inclusive services that can be given to people with the disabilities. That's an important area. Maybe the most of the countries, especially the developing countries, need to take care. And another thing, the expenses of mental health services can be another barrier for people with a disability to get into the mental health care. These are all preventing or taking away the right to have mental health care and the right to live in the community. Again, it's about institutionalization. So we are not supposed to institutionalize them and exclude them from the community. More than that, connecting with the government and local community and the service providers, we are supposed to help them to live in the community. Then institutionalization takes away the dignity, right, and freedom of the people with the disability, and it can often lead to trauma and more isolation and exclusion, and more severe mental health issues. So care that removes choice or voice, even if well-intentioned, is not ethical care. And trauma-informed care asks one fundamental question: what happened to you instead of what's wrong with you? Okay, so this is what trauma informed care asks a person: what happened to you instead of what's wrong with you. When we ask what's wrong with you, that means that problem lies within the person. But when we ask what happened to you, the problem is outside the person. And so I will talk a little more about that later. So the key principles include safety, trust and transparency, choice and control, collaboration, empowerment for persons with disabilities. Trauma. Okay, so trauma is an ongoing experience in their life. I already mentioned that. So it can be many. There can be multiple traumas in their life. So it can be lifelong for some people. So the trauma-informed care, the key principles of trauma include care, safety, and there should be trust and transparency, choice and control. Again, collaboration. We may need to collaborate with other experts, and there should be empowerment. And what are the practical strategies? A few important practical strategies for psychosocial care. In individual level, disability affirmative counseling. We talked about in the beginning disability affirmative. What is disability affirmation? Instead of considering it as a tragedy, so we acknowledge disability as a human diversity or a natural human experience. So affirming that, so we are providing counseling and narrative approaches that help people reclaim identity beyond disabilities. This is something I really love. The narrative, we see, when we look at disability through the narrative approaches, it can really be empowering, because we know the narratives are powerful tools that can control, oppress, or empower people or groups or individuals. Okay, and the narratives can be often constructed by the social institution, different kinds of social institutions or cultures or powerful groups. Okay, so when we look at people with the disabilities, it's important who is creating narratives about them and about their life. Is it doctors? Is it mental health experts? Or is it experts in disability studies, those who have done PhD in disability studies? Okay, I'm not saying that their expertise is not valid or valuable. Definitely they are. We of course it's a collaborative effort. We need support from all kinds of professionals. It's again we, not us and they. At the same time, we need to check the narratives created by others and does it match with the narratives of people with a disability. The narratives created by others or the powerful institutions of the society reflect the reality of the people with disabilities. So many of the times it may not reflect the reality of people with a disability. So in individual level, um, in counseling or in any other kind of services, it's important to listen to the narrative of the person. What is the narrative of the person about their own life? And we should explore what are the narratives of the society or other people have about their life. Excuse me. And what are the dominant narratives in their life? And in therapy or in any kind of such services, I mean, in education field, whenever we deal with people with disability, we can help them to reclaim their authenticity about their own life. I mean, we can help them to reorder, okay, reconstruct their own narratives about their life. That is what we mean by empowerment, actually. We are empowering to reorder their own life stories, their own narratives as they wish, as they want. Okay, so the narrative approach is something that's very interesting and it's so empowering. And there should be strength based assessments instead of sorry, instead of looking at the weaknesses and what the vulnerabilities of the person. Of course, it should be addressed, but more than that, their strengths should be assessed and their strengths should be promoted and the potential should be uh, you know encouraged. So the supporting and next thing is supporting self advocacy and decision making. As I mentioned at the beginning, the decision making ability and their freedom should be promoted and encouraged. And the self advocacy also should be encouraged and promoted. A person should be trained from childhood onwards to advocate for themselves. Often, what happens? People with a disability start advocating for themselves after going through a lot of trauma, and after once they reach to a point that they can't tolerate anymore. This is not fair what I'm experiencing. I need to talk against this, or I need to act against this. It's at that point many people start advocating for themselves. But self advocacy is a skill that should be taught from the childhood onwards, and it should be promoted, and it should be they should be taught that it's their right. They are asking for their right, and so we should respect it and the decision making ability and freedom. And in family level, of course families are they are and times can be overprotect and in some of the families they can be hostile and that too can happen. It's different in different families. And so what we can do, psychoeducation for families can help a lot. For example, um, children with ADHD, parents often they are worried if they don't know what is ADHD. They struggle with children with ADHD, and they might come and tell you, "Oh, I'm struggling with this child. He's very naughty, or she's very irritating and very impulsive, and it's very difficult to manage. I don't know how I'm going to handle this child." So it can be seen as a character flaw, okay, of the child. Even in schools, ADHD students are getting a lot of discrimination, and teachers also consider them as naughty kids, and they know, naughty and mischievous, and so impulse difficult to manage. So in such cases, psychoeducation for families are important. So parents should be informed about what is ADHD, and when we help them understand, um, that for the child it's equally difficult to handle themselves, as much as the parents struggle to handle this child. When the child is struggling to manage their own emotions and impulses, as much as the parent struggle to manage the child. So it can develop empathy in parents, right? So they will be able to develop empathy and sensitivity, and they will know how to manage and cope with the child and help the child. So psychoeducation for family members is very important, and addressing caregiver burnout, that's another thing. Addressing caregiver burnout can enhance the life of people with a disability also in another way, because the caregivers are this burnout is of not addressed. So when they come to therapy, when a child with a disability or person with a disability come for therapy, it's equally important to understand and address how their caregiver are you know dealing with their burnout, and what is the quality of their life, because that is definitely going to affect the care the persons with the disabilities get. For example, I have seen um, most of the mothers in India, mothers of autistic children in India. So one of their parents, mostly mothers, they resigned their job, and they spent most of the time with their children at home. And so they might be dealing with all kind of financial struggles. They might be taking children from morning to evening to different kinds of therapy training, education training, and at home they are managing other things. So the entire life is spending with these children, and they are struggling with a lot of other things. So who is going to address this burnout? Actually, nobody. And they don't have anyone to talk about, so they don't have even time to think about anything, and they don't have the time to self-care, and at times they can collapse, their mental health can collapse, and it can affect the quality of the services they give to the children. I mean, here mothers are doing wonderful job. Definitely, we should respect them to the core for that. But it's very important to address the caregiver burnout, and encouraging autonomy and shared decision making. We talked enough about that. And the community and systems level. So we talked about psychosocial strategies that can be done in individual level and the family level. Now it's the community and systems level. The peer support groups, okay, it's always a collective responsibility and collaborative effort, not in an individual level or family level. That's why I told you this psychosocial care is important than a mere therapeutic or clinical intervention when it comes to people with a disability. So it's not only therapists or clinicians or anyone. I mean, the whole society, the whole group, the whole community can get involved. peer support groups. So when it comes to educational institutions, when we think about inclusive education, it's very important how we prepare the other students without a disability and teachers and the parents of students without a disability to accept and include children with a disability into their system, into their school system. And we should train students without a disability to have enough compassion, empathy, and and to provide support for students with disabilities, so they can learn from each other. And we should teach them they are also people who can contribute valuably to the society. So these kinds of, so it will develop peer support groups. Okay, if you start from school itself, I think inclusive education systems can be um, a starting point, a very good starting point for this. So when they grow up, it will automatically, it will be there. So the inclusion will not, feel as something foreign, that is getting imposed into systems or groups if you started from the school itself. And the accessible mental health services we already talked about. So how many systems have this accessible services? Do they have, even the government mental health systems, do they have accessibility services? Do they have sign language interpreters? So all this matters, and inclusive communication formats, interdisciplinary collaboration. So again, as I mentioned, this is not a work of a therapist or psychologist or psychoeducation, special educators alone, but this is going to be a collaborative effort with all kinds of people in the community and society, with family, and even the local community groups, and the family support groups, the government, everyone should be together. It should be a collaborative effort. And psychosocial care is not just a professional responsibility, collective responsibility. Even when a person with a disability comes with a depression or anxiety to a therapist, okay, the therapist may not be able to deal with the depression or anxiety. As I mentioned at the beginning, if the person is going through a severe economic struggles or poverty, or if the person is experiencing bullying or some kind of trauma in their relationships, and if the person is, what if the person is isolated and so excluded? So giving or suggesting medication, pharmacotherapy, or mere psychotherapy will not help. Then the therapist may need to, or the mental health system might need to collaborate with others for addressing this person's other social barriers or inequalities that might be causing severe mental health struggles. For example, if the person is so isolated and excluded, whom we can contact and care for the person, help the person to connect with community, or someone to talk, or how we can develop a support system to take care of this the person, that is important. And how can we help the person economically, how, what kind of services we can help the person to overcome their poverty or financial struggles. So all these things should be addressed properly. So it's a collective responsibility. So if we think about and deal with all these barriers, these social, economical, and cultural barriers, that is definitely going to help and improve the well-being, the whole well-being, including mental health. So this is what I thought of talking about the psychosocial care of persons with a disability. So now I would like to hear from you, your takeaways, your reflections, or your thoughts about this topic. Let us
Wow,
think.
Nisha. Wow. Thank you. It's so many things were popping in my head as you were talking. It's a huge subject. It covers from probably day one of life to the last day of life. So, and all the people in between that you run into, impacted by what you're talking about. So we have some questions, and Dr. Mather is first in line.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Nisha, thank you very much for your great presentation. I want to highlight some aspects of the interventions with the family, because sometimes the exacerbation of the emotional issues are related to family rejection. Sometimes it is the family who starts rejecting the person with a disability, showing pity, disqualification, or overprotection. So I think it would be great to offer workshops to people with disabilities to teach them, to train them how to self-advocacy, and again, intervention with the family. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Martha.
Martha.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cadence? Cadence, are you there? She might be frozen. There she is. Okay, Cadence?
I hope you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Nisha, you're a star. You've presented very well. I have learned quite a lot and connected to
Thank
the
you.
dots. You see, I normally do talent shows every year. I'm doing one 1st of May. If you happen to be in Tanzania, anybody in this platform, please come. I'll give you a free ticket. So one of my talent shows, I invited people with different abilities, and one testimony they gave connected very well with your presentation. They're adults, and they said this is their first time to have a social gathering like the one I invited them. Imagine, it means they've never gone out, no social life. And why this happens is because people feel like mobility will be an issue. How will they walk in the dark? So they're always locked. Even when the family goes out, it's easier to leave them behind. So I saw your point about social isolation, and I felt like, oh goodness, this is what they meant when they said I'm an adult and this is the first time I'm going out. And you know what I did? I gave them transport. I had to deal with this organization. I had to go pick each and every one of them and drop them to their doors. That's how I was allowed to take them. So kudos. That's one.
Wonderful.
So I also love the strength-based assessment point that you gave, because like with my son, it was always he can't do this, he can't do this, there's nothing he can do from the assessment. So, and I'm so happy this year, Dyslexia Awareness Month, we are talking about thinking differently. How can we change our perceptions to look at the strengths of these people other than what they can't do? So we are called upon, and even on this platform this year, let us think differently. Let's look at positive attributes other than negative attributes. And I'm really proud of you. I wish I can have you talk on one of my sessions, just to create awareness and have the right attitudes, and this attitude thing is actually very bad. Even as parents, you feel like my son can't do this, they end up can't do anything, and this goes in their system. So we make them believe that they can't. We forget to see what they can do, and there are lots of things they can do. You see, So I'm in love with your presentation, Nisha. I'm clapping for you.
I'm clapping
Thank
also.
you. Thank you, girls. Thank you. And all those who have commented about the presentation, thank you very much. and I always loved presenting in our RCWDA groups because it's well perceived and appreciated when I understand this is helping people. It's really motivation and encouragement. Thank you, Ken. Thank you so much for bringing me to the group and giving me opportunity each time. Yeah, and
like I said, you've opened up a ton of different topics. Like I said, almost anybody that you run into in your life needs to hear your presentation. From school teachers to, just it goes on and on and on the list of things. But one of the things that I've always had in mind, because I worked in an agency that worked with people with, they call them developmental disabilities, is the right to have a relationship, the right to get married if you want, the right to have children if you want, which is a very controversial thing around the world. And I don't know why, but oftentimes you talk about people have the right to make their own decisions. In that case, many times they don't have the right, because a lot of people have opinions of whether you should have a relationship. And then when you have a relationship, you're being monitored. So it's one of those things. Jacqueline?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nisha, for your inspiring presentation. I just have two questions. One is about the elder people. Can we consider the elder people as a part of disabled persons all over the world? This is my first question. The second, you talked about the role to advocate disabled persons on different levels, individual, family, and the community. And I'm asking about the Rotary level, because we are all are Rotarians. So I'm asking about the projects that we can make of low cost and high impact. What you suggest? Thank you.
Jacqueline, could you please repeat the first question? I couldn't hear you properly. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I am asking about the elder people. Can you consider the elder people as disabled persons in the community?
Definitely, if they have some kind of disability. For example, my
Yeah.
father, he didn't have any disability until the age of 70. But from the age of 70 onwards, he developed, he started losing his hearing. And now the 70 to 80% of his hearing is lost. Definitely, he has disability. So disability is natural. That's why I told you the disability is a natural human experience. Everyone is going to experience at some point of their life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So aging, aging alone doesn't make a person disabled, but if they experience some kind of disability, definitely they are people with a disability. And at the Rotary level, of course, I think I'm a new member, but I'm seeing a lot of things happening, including this webinars. And I think we can explore more how we can come up with more practical implications, of what we talk in such platforms. So I think we will come to that. For example, I was discussing with Ken and developing a project for the mental health of the persons with disabilities. It's that concept is there in my mind. I'm developing it. So I think each person can think of how these things, points we talk about in this group, can get implemented in our own places and in our own fields. Then it becomes fruitful.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you. We've got a lot of hands up here. Dr. Sigamoni?
Yeah, thanks, Ken. So, I think Nisha's presentation is excellent. And, the practical implications are many. And so I don't know if Rotary can assist, with a as a medium to advance her thoughts to a global audience. Because I think that she has so much of knowledge and ideas and excellent ideas that she could actually empower a lot of people across the world. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Thank you, Subramani. Thank you so much.
Angie? Angie, you there somewhere?
Yeah.
You would lose it. There you are. Angie, you had your hand
Yes.
up.
Am I in?
Yeah, you're all right. We can hear you, I think.
Am I in?
Yeah, you
Okay.
are. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yes, I did. Hello?
Angie, your connection is kind of breaking up. Give it a try.
Is it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Let's get back. So, Joyce?
Yes, hi, thank you. So thank you for an excellent presentation. And I think that, yes, Rotary does need to play a role in spreading this word around the world. One of the things that I've undertaken to do this year, and I hope that you all will help me do it, is to raise consciousness amongst the Rotary clubs of our district in the importance of accessibility for all people to our Rotary clubs. And it only takes one broken leg for you to suddenly become aware of the importance of ramps and elevators and other accessibility features. And as Nisha mentioned, elderly people frequently are losing their hearing. It's what, 30% of the population over 70 has some hearing disorder. So in our Rotary clubs today, many of which are aging, you know, a lot of the population of our Rotary clubs is aging. And I've found that men in particular will not tell you if they can't hear you. They'll sit there and nod their heads and fake it. And so I just I've been trying to make the point with everybody that they have to use a microphone. They have to make sure that everybody in the room can hear them. They say, oh, I have a loud voice, I don't need it. I said, you need this microphone. So if we can just raise awareness within our Rotary clubs of the needs of the people in the room that are silent. They're not speaking up, but they do have problems. They can't read your slides because they look like eye charts. They can't hear you because you're not using a microphone. And just making those points strongly, I think, is extremely important. The other thing I wanted to say is I'm the mother of a very heavily handicapped guy, and we constantly renegotiate our relationship. You know, and he'll say, you're making me feel like a child. Okay, then I have to back off and not do that little bit extra. But on the other hand, I also have a voice because I'm the one who's managing the finances. I'm the one who has to make sure that he's safe and I'm safe, taking care of him. And so we have to constantly negotiate how much extra help we need, whether that activity is going to be a good one for him or not. And we work it out. But both people need to speak up and say. And I think the other thing that he does for me that I truly appreciate is he thanks me for little things. You know, he doesn't need to do that. We've talked about it, but it nourishes the caregiver when you just say thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you.
Can I follow that?
Give it a try, Angie. Go ahead.
Yes, sorry. Joyce, I'm glad you got on because I have to connect with you about the wonderful experience I had at District 7910's training. You can see my badge in my background here, and they helped me the other part of my background, if you can see it here, and it was captions during the training, which I have so much hearing loss, I needed that. So I'm glad you mentioned those things, because I was going to mention one thing you didn't say, and this is a fabulous presentation. Fabulous. Everything you said needs to stay in there. I would suggest adding a couple of more things, Nisha. It's a known statistic that 70% of all disabilities are acquired. And like Joyce alluded to with hearing loss, you don't know how to deal with it. You don't even know what's happening to you. In many cases of many disabilities, think of cancer as a disabling condition. Many people get it misdiagnosed. Various autoimmune diseases get so many misdiagnoses. They don't know what's happening with their body. So I think, or their mind, they don't know what is going on is a big picture to keep out there in front of people, to be sensitive to everyone, because everyone's on the potential spectrum of developing a disability, no matter their age. Yes, it increases in frequency of the probability during age, as we age, but everybody has an opportunity. So I consider the we that you talked about two groups: those who know it and have it, disability, and that includes those who embrace it as part of their identity. That includes those who are fighting it. If they're developing it, they may be fighting it very much in their soul, in their body. And, this affects, of course, your mental health counseling and the not yets. And that's the big important group that we need to just lump together, say, you are not yet, because we can't really divide these disabled and non-disabled and say from birth or whatever. Humans have an entire lifespan, whatever it is for them. And the ultimate disablement is death. So actually, we want to live long enough, most of us, to develop even some disability. And we want to help each other through it. So if we have the world of the haves and knowns, because there's a world of unknowns, people who are developing disability and don't know it, or don't know what it is and don't know how to do. And the not yets, man, that includes all of us as the we.
Thank you, Angie. That's very valuable points what you shared. Yeah, definitely. I will prepare that when I talk next time.
Oh,
Definitely.
thank you.
And thank you. This is very valuable. And there are another group of disability, psychosocial disability, often get ignored, and they don't get even the certificates of disability in most of the countries. I mean, the disabling conditions that arising from mental health issues. So psychosocial disabilities are very prevalent in the society, but they don't get any benefits of disability services for them. They get a temporary services, the temporary certificate of disability. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nisha. Florence?
Yes. First of all, Nisha, thank you so much. You are right on target. As a person with a disability, since childhood, I could tell you, dear, you are on target. A few things I wanted to bring up. It's important when you said, I'm not sure the context, but it refers to working with rather than working for. And it reminded me when I grew up, I was 12 when I got polio. My parents decided what I was going to be when I graduated college. I had no say in it. This is what you're going to study. because it's easy physically. You don't have to run around. I wanted to be a social worker or a psychologist. Psychologist, I would have had gone on for doctorate. Social work back then, I had to go around from house to house. They don't do that anymore. So my mother decided that I should be a speech therapist. I had no choice in it. And I became a speech therapist. It was great. I loved it, but it wasn't with me. It was for me. Number one. Number two, my belief is what makes a person disabled is society. The world is not built for us. I can't even get around. I used to say when I lived in New York, we're the only group of people, those in wheelchairs, they can't get off the sidewalk. All I could do in those days go around the block. I couldn't cross the street. Society decided I was not worth getting off the street. That's my belief. Now, as far as caregivers go, this is something that strikes my heart. I've been dealing with caregivers forever. When you have to let one go because they get stupid or whatever their problems are, the trauma, emotional trauma of getting someone new in the house. Are they honest? Are they going to hurt me? Are they going to talk to me? Who are they? What's their background? It's so overwhelming that I really wish you'd take that job for me. Because right now, that's what I'm in the middle of. I just had one woman from Wednesday through Saturday. We went to the store. I bought my groceries. Then I said to her, you need to get anything? Nah. She picked up a salad and a drink. We go through the counter, and I said, didn't you buy the salad? She said, yes. I said, I didn't see her pay. Go outside and look at my receipt. She had put it on my receipt, expecting me to pay her food without her asking. That's caregiver. Number three, I live in an over 55 community, and I've started a club here. And I couldn't call it for people with disabilities because the elderly don't have disabilities. They have a physical condition that does not enable them to walk. They could do with physical limitations. That was fine. Oh, no, I don't have a disability. But you're using a wheelchair. Oh, it's not a disability. I have a physical limitation. Language is so important. I remember the days when I was called crippled. I remember the days. God, well, we even had a crippled class in elementary school. That goes way back. But your presentation, Nisha, on target. Thank you.
Thank you, Florence, and thank you for your sharing. I loved it, and thank you for the trust for sharing. And it really made my day.